Hey everybody, happy Tuesday and welcome into Bama News. Happy Rivalry Week. It is Iron Bowl week, y'all. Just a couple days away from kickoff on the Plains, Alabama and Auburn. He's Patrick Greenfield. I'm Simone Eli. We are excited to also welcome the third member of the show today, Michael Casagrande from AL.com.
Yes, sir.
Bama beat writer. Guys, it's Rivalry Week. Michael, you've covered this game once or twice in your career. What is it that makes this week so different compared to just every other week?
This year or in general?
Both.
Well, I'll say this year is probably one of the least exciting, least hyped up Iron Bowls I can remember covering. I wasn't here for 2012. I think that probably would have been the least exciting game. But yeah, I mean, it's a weird week always because it's a holiday week. You throw in, it's the biggest rivalry of the year, and then you just throw in like a holiday on Thursday. Mm-hmm. It's always kind of a bizarre. Like the schedules are always changing. It's just when it's a really big game, these kind of weeks are always just even more abnormal. Sure. In the season, and for a coach like Nick Saban, who likes to keep things as normal and regimented and scheduled as possible, this week is always kind of different. And so yeah, I mean it's a rivalry week. It's always something interesting.
His answers yesterday were funny when they were like, "What's your memory from the first game?" He's like, "You want me to remember 15 years ago?" I've only been to one Iron Bowl. It was the 2019 Iron Bowl, and like a lot of us in sports media, we've been to big games, and sure. We cover Auburn at times. Obviously, Michael covers Alabama exclusively, but it's so cool when you're in the stadium and everybody's TVs in Alabama and obviously in the region are like focused on that game. I could feel the energy. I remember, and just knowing that it was the epicenter of kind of college football. Is super exciting. I agree it's not the most exciting. I know that if Bo Nix were in the game, I think this would kind of step it up a little bit. Yeah. But Alabama just has to kind of handle business. And we're obviously going to get into that.
Yeah, regardless, as Nick Saban would say it best, it's a game that means a lot to a lot of people. And kickoff is at 2:30 on Saturday. And you never know. You never know what's going to happen on the Plains. We've seen crazier things the last couple of years. In Auburn have gone to the Tigers. So we will see what that looks like on Saturday. Before we start breaking down the Iron Bowl game, let's look back very quickly in the Alabama-Arkansas game, a game that I don't think many folks thought this would be a one-touchdown game at the end of it all. Nobody really thought it was maybe going to be that high scoring at all. It kind of gave me some LSU vibes, more points on the board, of course, but Arkansas with an opportunity really to go ahead a couple of times. It felt like down the stretch. Michael, you're obviously at this game. What was the situation here with the Tide? Why was this not just a breakout game where they put Arkansas away and go home with a 3-touchdown win?
Yeah, no, it's something that I've been working on. I worked on. I think I wrote it yesterday. Finally, just kind of the way they've these last 3 home games. It's been a 1-score game in the fourth quarter of Tennessee, LSU. Arkansas, and then the last 2, it was a 6-point game. And LSU had the ball 4 times with a chance to take the lead. Arkansas had it once with that 6-point margin. So, yeah, it's just been living dangerously, living on the edge, not being able to put teams away. It was there was almost a concern last year that they didn't play any close games, that they weren't sure how they would be able to handle a tight moment like that if they ever faced one. They obviously never really did. So, no problems there. But this year, there won't be any questions about whether they've played, been able to play in closer games, because it's been, a lot more dramatic than it had been in previous years, probably.
I also think you got to give a lot of credit to KJ Jefferson. His style of play was pretty bruising. It seemed like Arkansas was really able on the line, on offensive and defensive side, to like handle Alabama. They actually had more sacks. I think the Alabama the secondary is obviously the thing that got shredded, and his ability to kind of run pass really kind of threw him off. You have to give credit to Arkansas. They obviously aren't a top 10 team, but they moved up in the rankings after a loss like that. So that speaks volumes.
Michael, is there something, really both of you guys, but do you feel as though there's something to the Tide battle tested? Michael's dog really loves when he comes on this show.
The only time he ever does this is when we're live on the air.
It's going to be okay. We all have dogs. We all appreciate dogs. He's just fired up for the Iron Bowl. But, guys, the fact that this team is battle-tested, has had to win some close games. When you look ahead maybe to what things look like down the road against Georgia in the college football playoffs, is this something that is a positive in some way, even though it's probably put some Bama fans through the ringer when it comes to feeling like they're stressed out on Saturdays?
I mean, is it like a play up or play down situation? Because if it's like that, Alabama's going to be in a good spot against Georgia. They're going to match Georgia's intensity and physicality. But if it's an actual weakness, Georgia's going to expose it, and that's not going to be that fun of an SEC championship game.
Sure.
Agree. I mean, Georgia's going to be a favorite going into this game. It will be only the second time in the past, 12 years that Alabama will be an underdog, and Georgia was the other time they were an underdog in 2015 in a game Alabama ended up winning. But I think, they look like two teams going in different directions right now. Georgia's really a machine. Alabama clearly living dangerously, as I had written.
Yeah. Guys, a big part of Bama's success when they've had success offensively is obviously Bryce Young, but what Jameson Williams was able to do in this past game, man, this guy is just incredible. Patrick, I know you have some highlights. I don't know if you want to run those.
I'll run those. Shot by yours truly.
Love it. I absolutely love it. Yes, there might have been some flaws in the Arkansas game, but this guy was not one of them. Jameson Williams is about as good as advertised. Really gives me the vibes from like the past few receivers that we've seen at Alabama. Really breakaway speed, be able to get beyond the defense. Michael, just talk about how impressive he has been. And I mean, I understand that Ohio State's had a pretty impressive quarterback there for a second as well, but it seems like this move is paying off.
Yeah, I mean, it's you have to almost wonder where Alabama would be right now without the threat that Jameson Williams brings. He's the one guy who it seems like if you were to get behind a safety or even in the neighborhood of the safety, that Bryce Young has that confidence to throw it up and put it. He has some room for error with the ability for him to run underneath passes. He's just a really impressive guy. When you see the ball going deep and you know that it's Jameson Williams, you feel pretty confident that the ball is going to be, that it's going to go where it's supposed to be going. Yeah. He's just explosive speed-wise. He has the speed of some of these guys, the Waddles, the Ruggs, the guys who've come through here in the past. Some of those intermediate passes, he's had a couple of drops. I think he had maybe one or two of them again Saturday. But when he's going deep and the ball's put on his breadbasket, he's going to, you're not going to catch him.
No question.
I saved the last highlight if we're going to talk about Bo Nix because that is the play that Bo Nix brought up. But hey, remember John Mechie had 178 yards.
Go ahead and run that play, Patrick, because go ahead and run that play.
This is the one Bo Nix made the comment about.
Okay, so obviously Bo, if you missed it, talking about how Bama gets all these calls. Here's the thing, man. There's zero evidence at any sort of way to look at that and say that he didn't catch that ball. I mean, you can't tell really if it hit the ground or not. To me, it looks like a catch.
It's absolutely a catch. And he if you get it in slow-mo, I obviously have it on my computer, but he catches it. Yes, it assists him, but he already had his hands underneath it. So, and he got some amazing dance moves and celebrations.
Michael, what was it like, the atmosphere in that moment in the station, or not station, in the stadium when that catch was, confirmed or stands or whatever it is that they said?
Yeah, no, I think there was a lot of nervous energy going around that I feel like this, that game could have still gone any direction at that point. And, it was one of those calls where it's really impossible to tell without seeing every little angle, seeing where the ball is, if you could dust it for fingerprints or whatever you want to do. Like there's some things are just, you have to go with the call on the field. The referee and the back judge didn't seem like he was in the best position to make it the call to begin with. But at a certain point, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So is it evidence of some grand conspiracy? I don't know.
I don't think there's a grand conspiracy, but I do have to enjoy a little bit Bo Nix talking trash. Of course, that gives us one more thing to talk about this Iron Bowl week. He's not even playing in the game, of course, because he is injured, has the ankle injury, had to have surgery. TJ Finley will be the starter for Auburn Saturday against the Tide. When you look at the quarterback situation, I imagine that guys like Will Anderson, some of the dudes up front for Alabama are kind of licking their chops to the quarterback always, but now with a guy who has very limited, meaningful snaps this season.
Yeah, in Alabama, I think they played Finley last year when he was at LSU, and I think they handled him pretty well. So, granted, a lot of different circumstances, a lot of, it's not just one person, but yeah, I mean, Bo Nix probably would have been the bigger threat in this moment, given the fact that he's beaten Alabama in the past.
And I would say it's probably not likely, but after watching the Arkansas game, and I loved KJ Jefferson's game. If TJ Finley could use his legs a little bit and be that bruiser and kind of copy that game plan, it obviously can affect Alabama. I don't know if he'll be able to do that. I don't know if Brian Harsin's going to ring that up. I don't think the receivers for Auburn are as good as the Arkansas receivers after kind of watching all season, but that would probably be the one key for TJ Finley is to use his legs.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Looking at TJ Finley last week, Auburn's third straight loss. It's been a hot minute since Auburn's lost 3 straight. I don't really know the exact stats on that.
2012.
I think someone told me Gus Malzahn never did that. So,
2012.
Okay, that's a minute. That's the year before Gus Malzahn.
Yeah.
So, a lot of folks gave Gus Malzahn heat, but he did upset the Tide a couple of times. That's beside the point. TJ Finley last week went 17 of 32 for 188 yards and a touchdown. Didn't do anything on the ground. And I really think that, Patrick, to your point, that is a huge difference in what Bo Nix does present for Auburn as a dual threat guy. Finley, more of like a pocket passer, doesn't really want to get outside the pocket as much, maybe extend the play like Nix does, which is, a positive and a negative of Nix. I think that a lot of folks have seen that throughout the years is sometimes you have to live and die by the decisions that he's making in the backfield. But regardless, it does kind of take away that threat for the Tigers.
And what I meant for like using your legs for TJ Finley, I don't mean like backyard scramble. I mean being another running back, basically, like KJ Jefferson. Be that big body. Use him, get another blocker. That is, and obviously he can toss, Ponchatoula stand out. But I think regardless, Bo Nix decision-making is going to be a million times better than TJ Finley's at this point if you watch any of their games together. And that's probably going to be what Auburn is lacking, more than the legs.
Michael, I always feel as though Tide fans have this like uneasiness about an Auburn team in an Iron Bowl that doesn't have a huge amount of like bearing on, like it's not like the West is on the line here. Alabama's won the West. Obviously, a loss would significantly impact the Tide when it comes to football playoff rankings and situations like that. But it seems as though when Auburn is really playing for pride mostly and playing to stop the bleeding because they're on a 3-game losing streak, that's sometimes a scary Auburn team because they're playing with nothing to lose, and it's at Jordan-Hare Stadium.
Yeah, well, I'll give you a counterpoint to that. The 3 times in the last, Alabama's lost 3 or 4 to Auburn at Jordan-Hare, and all 3 of those times Auburn's been ranked. 2 of those times ranked in the top 10. So in 2015 when they went there, I don't think Auburn was ranked. Alabama beat them. 2011 beat them pretty handily as an unranked team, 7-5 going into that game, maybe. I think when it's a talented Auburn team that's a ranked team that's playing for something, is not to step on your point, but maybe the more.
Oh, I appreciate this. This is good. This is good. Yeah. No, then you're absolutely right. You have. That's pretty valuable information. It seems as though Auburn does not always have as much on the line in these games, and sometimes it feels like it's just a wild hair. Like you never know what you're going to get type of thing.
Well, 2019
was kind of the concern more than anything.
The 2019 it was an opportunity to knock Alabama out of the playoff. Auburn they weren't top 10 team or 15th ranked, I think, at the time. And that was definitely a spoiler role where Alabama had a chance to still make the playoff. And that was, the nail in the coffin for that. So in that sense, yes, Auburn was playing, they were going to the Outback Bowl, I think.
Sure.
And, they weren't known that at that point, but still, yeah. So not totally terrible, not a completely wrong take, but
I appreciate you.
Again, the backup quarterback in that situation happened to be Alabama, obviously McCorkle. So this time I just don't think they're going to have enough with TJ Finley. I don't know how that guy comes in and faces this out and gets the entire team. Look for Tank Bigsby to kind of be the focal point if they're not going to give TJ Finley the keys to the car.
Sure. Guys, when it comes to playoff implications, and we're going to get to what our breakdown is, what our top four looks like, but let's talk quickly about what it looks like for Alabama. Should the Tide drop this game, go into the SEC title game, and I know Saban's not about hypotheticals, but we're allowed to talk about them here on this show, win the SEC title game, what does the playoff look like in a situation like that? And I'm asked this question really because I want to talk about the significance of this Iron Bowl when it comes to what things look like a couple weeks from now for Alabama.
I mean, to lose the Iron Bowl to a 6-5 Auburn team, then turn around and beat the top-ranked, untested, unchallenged Georgia Bulldogs in Atlanta, that's quite a scenario. I don't know if they would come. I don't know if they would have the mental resolve to come back from an Auburn loss to beat a Georgia team that looks so
sure
not unbeatable, but it's, that's possible. I mean, if you beat the number one team that's undefeated, it's all the other scenarios. How do the other teams play out? What is it? Are you going to choose them over a undefeated Cincinnati or a one-loss Notre Dame that doesn't play in a conference championship? There's so many of these, what-if scenarios that we're still thinking about that they're dependent on the others as well. But that's quite a scenario for an Auburn loss and a Georgia win.
Just wondering what it would look like being a two-loss Alabama team who's the SEC champion. Like, that's always like the thought process is, okay, what is more important to the committee when it comes to decision making? Is it conference titles? Is it how many losses? Because it seems as though it's never the same.
If you knock off Georgia, no matter if you lose the Iron Bowl, you're going to get in the playoff. I think they're going to reward you for beating this buzzsaw that is Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs. Can you imagine the press conference or the practice sessions if Alabama does lose this game? I don't think Nick Saban's blood pressure is going to do that. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be. I would love to hear inside the walls of the training facility when that goes down. If they beat Georgia, they're in. I don't think anybody's going to question that. It's more like, what are the other teams going to do?
Sure.
I think the real question is they beat these guys, Auburn, and then they go have a close game against Georgia and lose, maybe a 2-3 point loss.
Yeah.
That's where everybody kind of gets in. Oh, you're the only team in the nation that can go and kind of compete with Georgia.
Sure.
Where do you stand in the pecking order? And I know we're going to have our rankings in a second.
Let's take a look at our rankings. Let's bring them up.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the scenario that is interesting for Alabama. Sorry, just messing with this. So, here's Simone.
Here's what I got, guys. I know Ohio State was bumped up to 2 in the AP poll. Obviously, the rankings come out tonight. They come out every Tuesday, except for the last ones that they somehow magically get done overnight or the same day. I have Ohio State 3rd. I understand that was a huge win over Michigan State. In Cincinnati, I've kept them in the rankings. I'm going to continue to keep them in the rankings. I like Cincinnati there right now. I feel like you got to – what are you going to do? Knock them out for winning? No. So this is what I like right now.
Well, minds think alike. Good, great minds think alike.
Get out. Okay, guys.
The Ohio State, you go in and crush the number 7 team in the nation. And obviously you saw the Ducks falter at Utah. I was driving home when that happened. My mom was not having a good time. But I think that pushes up. If Alabama had crushed Arkansas, I could see them being number 2, but that's where the slip up happened for me.
I agree. There's a lot of bias towards teams with red colors this year.
My God.
That's how Michael likes to
I almost put Michigan in, but I thought that was unfair, and they're going to have to play Ohio State anyway.
Yeah,
this week.
It'll work itself out this weekend.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
Ohio State. I mean, if Ohio State loses to be a 2-loss team, and it depends on how they lose. How do they look when they lose? But I think they're above Alabama right now, and they can prove me right, prove me wrong the next 2 weeks with, both have rivalry games and then conference championships. So,
okay, question for both of you guys: how much did Alabama? Because we're trying to get in the minds of what the committee looks like. Okay, so in last week, I think Patrick, yours were spot on. Of course, shocking. If they are this week, this is how it looks. Let's get in the minds of the committee. How much does Alabama's close win over Arkansas play a role in them dropping to 3?
It's more of Ohio State being more impressive. It's not just like it's just Ohio State was more impressive than Alabama, and they're putting their offense is clicking. They had some early season, they weren't as strong early season, but the team that lost to Oregon is not the team that's playing right now. If they were to play again, Oregon, they would mop the floor with them. So,
I'm never a big fan of like the hypothetical, like, and I agree with you, Michael, that they probably would, but it's like, can you really judge these rankings on would they beat this team? You know what's really going to be interesting is Cincinnati. Now there's a precedence for a team that you beat going ahead of you with Michigan.
Yeah.
What if Cincinnati kind of falters and they put Notre Dame in there and we just have a huge blue blood?
If Cincinnati loses, they're not. There's no one-loss Cincinnati.
We're talking about what if Cincinnati wins out? Okay, they win the AAC championship, but Notre Dame looks really impressive. Now there is precedent to put Notre Dame ahead of Cincinnati, even though Cincinnati beat Notre Dame in South Bend.
I would have a huge issue with that. Head to head, I feel like
a lot of people
has got to be just the main, like this main standard of what you decide the rankings on. And they show that that's not the case. Wasn't it like, was it last week or current rankings or whatever it was where they had
Michigan State.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So again, like clearly that does not matter as much as I feel like it should, in my opinion. Not that I'm on the committee.
I mean, Alabama fans get a benefit. The people that we are talking to right now, you guys are in the best position of any of these. I mean, except Georgia, really. So
yeah.
I feel bad for Cincinnati fans, honestly.
Michael, no.
Where's the closest skyline to here, Michael?
Oh man, if Alabama plays Cincinnati, I'll definitely be going to Cincinnati to do some hands-on research.
All right, guys, we will see tonight. What time's the show? 6 or 7?
6 o'clock Central. The 6 rankings.
6 o'clock Central. We'll see the rankings for this week, but Saturday's the big one. At least the big one when it comes to bragging rights, 365, what it matters, how much it matters to fans. As Saban would say, it's a game that means a lot to a lot of people. The Iron Bowl, 2:30 kickoff, like it typically is. CBS SEC game of the week. We will see. Second and third ranked, whatever you want to call it, Alabama at Auburn. Crazier things have happened, but a new guy in Brian Harsin, a new guy in TJ Finley trying to go up against a Tide team that can put up a lot of points. We'll see what that looks like. So kickoff at 2:30. Mike Casgrande, thank you for your time today. We appreciate you as always. Patrick Greenfield, I'm Simone Eli. Y'all enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and we'll see you after the Iron Bowl.